Okie dokie. Thank you so much. And welcome everyone to an early and abbreviated board meeting for January. Thanks for making the time for this. I greatly appreciate it. We got quite a bit of lot that we want to get through in the next hour, so I'm just going to get going. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to, I think, Sue and Sandra probably for legislative issues update.
Hey, thank you, Neil. So the legislative session started last week, and I would say that the main attraction so far has been H48. You've probably heard about it. It's a bill that would allow select boards and school boards to change the date of their annual meeting if they would like to do that. Also allows them to mail ballots to all active registered voters. So you can choose to do either one of those things, neither of them, or both of them. It is not required, but is designed to provide some flexibility because of the pandemic and the concerns about safety and health. H48 is moving extremely quickly. It passed the House yesterday, and it is being voted on by the Senate tomorrow. We think they're going to suspend all rules and that it could end up on the governor's desk as soon as tomorrow, and all indications are that he is going to sign it. So in order to provide information to school board members who have a lot of questions about upcoming annual meetings, we hosted a webinar today at noon with the guest panelists from the Secretary of State's office, Will Senning and JP Isabel. We had over 75 people attend that webinar, and there were so many questions that we had to compile more at the end because they weren't able to answer all the questions in the hour, and we pretty much devoted the whole hour to answering questions. So I have sent the remaining questions to Will and JP, and they have agreed to get back to us as soon as possible. And the answers to those questions will be sent out to everyone who registered for the webinar, which was, I think, over 100 people. So that 122, wow. That's one of our bigger numbers, isn't it, Carrie?
Yes, and we had 87 people attend at the highest point. And we had 32 questions left over at the end.
Oh my goodness. I didn't look at how many there were. I just sent them along. That's amazing. So we're really, really thankful for our strong relationship with the Secretary of State's office and their willingness to help answer all of these questions. And they also, offered their emails, for people to send them questions later on. But we're hoping that this webinar, was able to answer a lot of people's questions. There are definitely a lot of complications, many of them having to do with unified union districts that cover, anywhere between 2 and 10 towns. A lot of them cover, many towns, 8, 9, 10 towns. And it does get sort of complicated when the towns decide they're going to go off and do something different. And then the school districts are kind of left in the situation of trying to figure out how to run their election. So the other news is that I have been in touch with Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and they are very willing to put out a joint message strongly urging towns to cooperate with school boards and school districts. I think that will go a long way. I'm hoping they're a pretty influential organization. And also we are hoping to get Governor Scott to stress the importance of coordination and cooperation during one of his press conferences. The other thing I can tell you about that is related to H48 is that the Joint Fiscal Committee met, and they set aside $2 million from CARES Act funds. There's about $6 million left, I believe, from the previous disbursement of federal funds. And they set aside $2 million of that to reimburse towns and school districts for printing and mailing ballots if they decide they're going to go the route of mailing ballots to all registered voters. So that has been a main focus of ours at the beginning of the legislative session. We've been following several other bills that have been introduced. I have been asked to testify to the Senate Ed Committee and the House Ed Committee. They really haven't gotten into particular bills at all yet. They are at the point now where they're learning about our organization. So they're having sort of an introduction to the VSBA, and they're learning about getting a baseline for what is happening in Vermont education right now. So I guess the other thing I should let you know is that the Senate Education Committee is almost entirely new. There's only one person, Senator Perchlik, who is on the who is a past member of the Senate Education Committee. The new chair is Senator Campion from the Bennington area. And so they really definitely need an introduction to the VSBA because, you know, they haven't served on the Education Committee before. And there are also several new members of the House Education Committee. Tomorrow, when I testify in House Education, there'll be 4 school board chairs from diverse geographic regions of the state that are going to also be coming in and providing just kind of a local flavor for what is going well in their districts and what the challenges are right now, especially related to COVID. At this point, I think I'll turn it over to Sandra for a moment to just talk about the exciting news of our new legislative blog.
Thanks, Sue. Can I share my screen, Carrie, for a moment? Are you all able to see the blog? Great. So this Monday was our first blog post. In text, this is what it looks like, similar to the way the legislative reports have been written in the past with links embedded throughout. So if you click on any of these green, blue text, you'll get an automatic link over to those documents. What's new is that at the top here, there's a link to the video. So I recorded myself reporting all of this information and a podcast. So if you happen to be on the road and you just wanted to listen, you could click here and just listen to the information as well. So this first post is complete, and a bunch of links down here at the bottom. I suspect that next week we'll actually have the first of the 3 legislative reports in the traditional format that you may have seen them in the past. So we agreed to do one at the start of the session, mid-session, and conclusion of the session. And I've already started working on that. So our hope is to have the full report ready for Monday in lieu of a blog report. And then we'll go back to blog reports every week from that point forward. I wanted to just show you on our website, if you go under this advocacy tab and then to the legislative blog, the posts will appear here, most recent at the top and down below. If you have not subscribed yet, you can fill in this information and this will allow you to get an automatic notification as soon as I post information on our website. So I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any about the blog.
Sandra, this is Lori Childers. Are you getting, you must be able to count how many people you have a sense for whether people are looking at it?
Yes, I was so excited because almost immediately after posting it, I started seeing people had reviewed it. We have 83 reviews already. Yep.
And thanks for doing the video and the audio. That is, I wasn't expecting that actually, though that was a wonderful surprise. and a great way to catch up, especially if you're just sort of driving in the car and just want to listen to it rather than have to read it. So that was awesome.
Great. I'm glad it's helpful. And if you want to provide feedback, there was a link in the email as well. So if there's any information missing that you wish you had access to on our public policy page, please fill out the brief survey. That'll go directly to me, and then I can act upon it. Thanks, everyone.
Any other questions for Sandra about the blog? And Sue, did you have more to cover in the legislative session, or is that?
I think that's it for now. There are bills that have been introduced. None of them have been, there hasn't been testimony on any of them. There is one that hasn't been introduced, but it hasn't been introduced to the House. It came into the House General Committee yesterday. It doesn't have a bill number, so I'm not sure if it's going to be a committee bill or what its status is right now, but has to do with the statewide bargaining. And it's basically the same as S226, which passed the Senate last session, but did not end up going further in the House, partially because of COVID hitting and everything having to be more focused on COVID. So there were definitely some issues that that we had with that bill as it passed the Senate. And there's another bill that's been introduced in the House, and it's been referred to that same committee, H63, that addresses it addresses the issues that we saw with S226. Sorry for all the numbers. I expect that committee will be talking about that bill alongside the unnumbered bill. So they're going to be talking about statewide bargaining. It's going to be a little uphill climb for that committee because there are several new members, and I think some of them are not only new members of that committee, but brand new legislators. So they have quite a bit to learn about the process, and we're prepared to provide that history and also all of the background information. So stay tuned on that issue. Those are the two issues that have substantive issues that have come up so far.
Thank you, Sue. Any questions for Sue or Sandra? Go ahead, David.
Did somebody already talk? Did you already talk about there seems to be a proposal afoot for moving quickly on revamping the pension plan for teachers and state workers? Has that already been discussed, or is that something you know anything about?
Yeah, I'm going to be in a meeting about that tomorrow, David, and I do know basically what's happening with that, and it is definitely concerning. There's several changes that the treasurer, Beth Pierce, is proposing to make to the teachers' retirement and how it works. And I can certainly send when I have more information, I can certainly send the board an update on that as soon as I have it.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from board members? Go ahead, Flora.
The webinar will be available soon to watch. I couldn't attend, so I'm just wondering.
Yes, I just put the video up actually as we were coming on. So it's up on YouTube and it's on our homepage, but I haven't sent the email out yet just because of timing. I'd rather not rush sending out emails.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Any other questions? Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Sandra. Actually, thanks to the whole staff. As board members can probably guess, the beginning of the legislative session can be quite a flurry with a whole lot of bills being introduced within a very short period of time. And if you haven't noticed before, and I'm sure you have, we have a pretty small staff. So in order for our folks to get up to speed on all of the stuff that sort of comes all at once, it takes a little time. So you know, we do the best that we can. We try to place focus on the items that we think are, you know, top priority, but certainly would spend the time and try to get through, you know, all of the ones that are associated with education. So if there's a bill that you had your eye on, but you didn't hear us talk about it yet, it's not because we're ignoring it. It's because there's a lot that sort of happened in a very relatively short period of days here, and it takes us a little bit of time to get up to speed onto everything. So rest assured, we will. Our great staff will get to it, and we won't be left out. But if anything comes up along the way, and you want to point it out to us, just to make sure that it's on our radar, or if you're wondering what our position might be on that, then please bring it forward to either myself or Sue or both of us, and we'll make sure to address it. Okay.
Yes, I would add, Neil, that a significant amount of our time has been taken up with answering questions to do with H48. It's and elections. It's been, that webinar was an indication of how many questions there are.
Yeah, I absolutely understand. I was actually having some conversations with our own town clerk related to that just today as well too. So something that I think is on top of everyone's mind and trying to figure out how to move forward on that. So thank you for all of your work there. If there are no other questions on the legislative session update, then I am going to move on to VHI board appointment update. So I'll let the board know. You guys hopefully will recollect the last meeting. We said that we were, the executive committee was sort of tasked by this board with interviewing the candidates for the open VHI board position. So we got together, the applications went out. We had 3 applicants, and after interviewing those folks for the position last week, the executive committee selected Gio Honingford. Now the full board may be looking at me right now going, wait a minute, didn't we just appoint Gio to the seat on the bargaining commission? And you would be absolutely right that this board did do that. And I will say it was, the executive committee was not trying to undo something that the VSBA board had done previously. What had happened was, if folks recall, when Gio applied for and then spoke to the seat on the bargaining commission, he indicated he was willing to serve there, but if we were able to find somebody else, he was also more than willing to provide that opportunity to someone else. What Gio didn't know at the time, because we actually hadn't advertised it yet, was that we were also going to be soliciting for appointment to the VHI board seat. When he saw that request and application go out, he reflected on the bargaining commission seat and just felt that he was a better fit and that he would prefer, if selected, to serve on the VHI board seat. He thought that that was a better fit for him and the situation that he was in right now. And that's what he explained to the executive committee when he interviewed for the VHI board seat position. So after deliberation and considering all the candidates that applied, the executive committee felt that, and honored Gio's desire that if we were going to appoint him to one or the other, that his preference was the VHI board seat. So we selected him for that. Which means then that this full VSBA board now has to, and then subsequently Gio did step down from the bargaining commission. So we need to fill that seat yet again. We will be opening up the application for that again. If we haven't already, I'll check with Sue. We'll get candidates. It's my intention, just because of the timing of everything, to have this board then review applicants and make the appointment at our February meeting. So a month from now, just so that we can make sure that we get that seat filled and moving forward. So I just want the VSBA board to know that it was not the executive committee's intention to undo a decision that was already made by this full board. But it was, Gio's, after his reflection, he just felt he would be better served in the VHI board seat if we had selected for that, and so we did. So that is the update on that. Do any board members have any questions related to that? All right, not seeing any. So I will, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Just thought, I just mentioned that I think we were pleased that we had good candidates for the VHI board position, as well. We had several candidates who were good choices, so that's always a good sign.
Yep, we did. So I'll work with Sue. We will get the notice out that we have that vacancy on the bargaining commission to fill, and we'll solicit applications and then circulate that material with this board prior to the February meeting. Make arrangements for those candidates to come meet with the board again, and then we'll make the appointment next month. All right. Thank you, board. Now going to move on to waiting study update. And Sue, am I turning that over to you first, or?
I can briefly speak to that topic and then I'll turn it back to you, Neil.
Okay.
There is a bill related to the waiting study. It is Laura Sebelia's bill, which is, I believe you received at your last meeting, and I don't think there are any changes from what you saw before.
There are some changes.
Oh, were there? Okay. I have not looked at it in detail. Do you know what the changes were, Mark?
If you give me a couple of minutes, I'll try to remember. They were substantive, but I just don't remember off the top of my head. Okay.
Well, we will definitely go over that in detail at the next meeting, but I just wanted to let you know that it had been submitted and it has been referred to the House Education Committee. But I think the main portion of this update that we wanted to focus on, I think, was the coalition regarding the waiting study. And there's a letter in your packet. I guess I'd just turn it back over to you, Neil, to cover that.
Yep. So if board members want to scroll down, if you'll remember, I think we did talk about this briefly at the last VSBA board meeting. There is a group of board members out there, I guess sort of unofficially called the Coalition, that has formed under the leadership, I believe, of a few board members from the Burlington area to get together with other school board members who are interested in, I think, some expedited passage of the waiting study recommendations that came out. We have two VSBA board members who have been participating in those meetings. Both Jim Salzgiver and Dan MacArthur have been in attendance, I think, at the last few meetings. After reviewing the video of the last coalition meeting, there were just a couple of things in there that I think the coalition may not have gotten a complete picture on regarding the VSBA position on the waiting study and some of the work and efforts that we've engaged in previously on that. And so I worked with both Jim and Dan to put together the letter that you see in the packet tonight that we sent over to Mike Fisher, who's been heading that group up, just to provide some clarification on some of the things that came up during the last coalition meeting. I know that both, I think, Jim, you were at the most recent meeting where the coalition got together. I don't know if Dan, if you were there or not. But I might turn it over to you now if you want to provide some additional comments or color to what's transpired.
Okay, Dan, or either.
Go for it, Jim. Yep, go for it.
Okay. No, it's a group of people. It's a group of districts that includes. It was started out by Burlington, includes Winooski, some of the Rutland districts, some of the Windham districts. And, basically, it's a group of districts that, feel strongly that the weighting study should, move towards implementation, sooner rather than later. It's, they're, honestly, and this is, Dan and I, and Mark Schauber has also been a part of this group, but I think there's not a huge difference between the VSBA's position on the weighting study, that that it's good. It should be put put into place. Just the question is, how do you do that, and how do you cushion any impact to districts that might financially be impacted by it, negatively. So they're moving forward. Good discussions. They're at this point looking at potentially hiring a lobbyist firm to support that effort. So they're going to be out there. I think the VSBA is going to be out there pushing on the weighting study. But I think this group is also, and they might have a slightly different take on it, but it's not drastically different than ours. So the group's been, actually, I think it's been run reasonably well, and it's I think I've been a part of it for my district and also for the VSBA, and I think it's helpful for us to to know where they stand, for them to know where we stand as the VSBA, and it's been a worthwhile effort so far, I think. Dan, do you want to?
Yeah, I agree completely. A worthwhile effort, and I think what Neil's referring to is something that I said at I think it was the most recent meeting, that I wanted VSBA to be more strident. I think I said something like that. So Neil sent to me, and I think included in the letter that's going to the coalition from Jim and myself, are the three motions that VSBA has actually passed relative to this, and they're strident. There's no question about it. So VSBA's position on this is not in doubt, and I may have left that impression with the coalition, but hopefully the letter that Jim and I have sent that you all can see will clarify VSBA's position, which I think is really important, because we need to know where people stand, and this coalition is going for it big time. But I would like to make sure that VSBA continues to be supportive of that position, and I'm sure we will as well.
So yeah, thanks Dan and Jim for that clarification. I think it's helpful, and thanks for your continued participation with that group. I think it's a great way to make sure that we're reaching out and both aware of what's going on. Coming out of that last coalition meeting, are they looking to engage some lobbying help with their effort? Do you know?
Yeah, there were two lobbying firms that attended and gave short presentations. They're expected to actually each provide a proposal, I think, by this Friday. The coalition group is going to have another meeting in a week or so, and make a decision as to whether or not to engage one of those.
Dave, go ahead.
So I was chair of the House Education Committee that put the study in place, and I believe that it ought to go forward. I think it's important for me to speak up for my district. Without a corresponding change in the high spending threshold and special education funding, both of which I supported in the legislature, if it's a standalone thing of just the weighting study, it severely hurts the finances of our district and puts us in jeopardy financially.
Thank you, Dave. Mark, did you find the updates?
I did, yes. And I also have a question for Jim and Dan. I'll tell you quickly the changes are, it rolls in the poverty over 3 years rather than doing it all at once, as it does in reverse, it rolls in the increases, quote unquote, over 3 years. It adds a EQS reporting standard, and it provides oversight to measure progress in improving ed opportunities. So those are the three main changes between what you guys have and what we just. And Jim and Dan, was there discussion at the last coalition meeting about how to pay for the lobbyist? I'm just curious.
Yeah, the districts who have been participating, a variety of them have already had their boards essentially pass a resolution that their district was, participating. And the thought is to get as many of those as possible, and take each of those, split up the cost of this is we're not talking about a massive amount of money for the lobbyists to support, but I don't know whether I should really disclose what those numbers are, but not a massive amount of money. And they discussed, splitting it amongst the districts that are participating, and probably doing that sort of on the basis of, equalized pupils or something, so big districts paying a heftier share.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. That makes sense.
Any other questions from this group related to the weighting study? All right, I'm not seeing any. So thank you for that update, both Jim and Dan, your participation there. And we will obviously continue to keep an eye on things as they progress during the legislative session, and keep you all informed as to what's going on. Next up in the agenda, it is School Board Recognition Month. Congratulations, guys. And you should be so excited. Did you get your postcard for your socks? All right. Have you filled out the online form to get your socks? Nice. Sue, did you have anything else that you wanted to add there? I know we got some stuff going on in the legislature as well, right?
Yes, we have, there will be a resolution that is read, and it has several school board legislators as sponsors. And that will be added to our toolkit. I think Susan was just going to give a little description of the toolkit that we put together for boards to, school board chairs and superintendents to, we gave them some tools to be honoring their school board members.
So Carrie, can I share my screen?
Yes, I believe you can.
Okay, somehow my computer's not letting me want to do that, but we'll try again. Hold on.
I'll make you a co-host, see if that'll help.
Okay, I think it's because of some setting I've got. At any rate, let me see if I can do it from the agenda. Oops. So we do have a toolkit on our website embedded in the button along with the other toolkits, recognizing school boards. We sent an email out to superintendents. Actually, I think we've had 2 go out, advising them that we have the resources on our website that include suggested activities that range from things like, and we had to amend it this year, so we can't honor our school board members at team sporting events and the like, but recommending that student newspapers interview board members and cover them that way. We have a recognition certificate template that districts can download and present to board members, a sample newsletter article for the parent newsletters that go out from a lot of districts. Carrie created social media graphics, which we use, but we're also encouraging school boards to use use them on their sites. As Sue said, when the state resolution is available, we'll add that here as well. There's also a template for a press release to go out from the school districts. And once we have a little bit more clarity about how the resolution is going to be handled this year and when, because it's being done a little differently by virtue of being virtual, we will also send out a press release from VSBA to the major players in the state. And then there's also an opportunity there for board members who lose their coupons or hear from their fellow board members that they should have gotten one and didn't. There's a chance for them to be able to request a link, which basically is just a quick way to send Carrie an email saying, hey, I lost mine. So I apologize that I'm having a little technical snafu this evening. And oh, well, Carrie's done it for me. Look
Yeah,
at
I
that.
shared it for you.
Perfect, thank you. I don't know why I didn't think of that first. So that appears for the month of January and disappears just as easily at the end of the month.
Thank you so much. You know, I do want to take a moment just to say thank you to all of you guys, especially, you know, those of you that are on the VSBA board, because you've committed above and beyond what your other board colleagues have done. And I greatly appreciate the support. I will say it makes my job relatively easy to work with such a great group of folks. You all deserve a lot of credit. I want to thank you for stepping up, especially when you do so and you probably don't get a whole lot of credit for it, perhaps maybe back in your home district. So thank you. It's really appreciated, and I couldn't think of working with a more dedicated group of folks than all of you guys. So kudos to you.
Maybe next year we'll be able to arrange 2 pairs of socks for the VSBA board members.
Oh,
I'll see what I can work out.
Neat. Or maybe next year we could actually all physically get together someplace and celebrate that way. You know, when the pandemic's over, if our, you know, I think I could probably swing beer for 24 board members. That would be.
I think we should have a sock hop.
Perfect.
You should also give feedback to, you know, Darn Tough that since they started doing this, I've bought a bunch more pair and it's the only thing I wear now. So
You're not alone.
it's working.
It's working.
Nice. Yes. And if you get a chance, please feel free to plug Darn Tough, because they've been, you know, a great sponsor and a great partner to work with. So, you know, snap a photo of your socks on and share it on social media or with your friends. Let them know just how great Darn Tough is. We greatly appreciate their support. If we don't have anything else on the recognition stuff, then I do want to move on to the strategic plan monitoring report.
So there's one item I would like to highlight on the strategic plan monitoring report. It's under educational equity. And you received an email about this earlier this week, but in case you didn't see it, I wanted to make sure that all of the VSBA board members know that the Vermont Community Foundation has awarded VSBA, VSA, and VPA a grant in the amount of $150,000 to support educational work to foster welcoming and equitable educational communities for Vermont's future. VPA is the fiscal agent for the grant, and VSBA is working with VSA and VPA to develop a timeline and a plan for utilization of the grant. And of course, it dovetails perfectly into the board's retreat on tonight, which is focusing on equity. Are there any questions on the monitoring report?
I'm slow to the button here. Mark, go ahead.
Not so much a question, more of a thank you to Sue and especially Sandra. I've been asking a ton of policy questions, and you guys have been a huge help, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
Happy to help, Mark.
Jim, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, you know, one issue that came to my attention elsewhere and is included in here under education leadership and I think we've talked about some before, is e-finance. And I know that there actually is a bill that's been drafted to delay the implementation of e-finance, and I was just kind of, interested in any more info on that whole situation and whether that looks like it could be taken up and whether we should be pushing our legislators on that issue at some point.
Yeah, I think that will be taken up. It's definitely a problem. I had a meeting with 3 or 4 business managers and the executive director of the Superintendents Association. And the business managers are, they're quite concerned because the program doesn't do everything that it needs to do to produce the reports that are required for their audits. So it's definitely a significant issue. And it's something that I think the VSBA, you'll need to talk about weighing in on. And I believe I've looked at the bill sponsored by Coach Christie, I believe, and it calls for an advisory group, and I'm not necessarily sure that there needs to be an advisory group, that there might be a more streamlined way to solve the problem. But it's definitely an issue, and it will be one that we'll be taking up pretty soon, I think.
Okay, because we have a very talented business manager in our district who said,
yes,
that
you do.
if this gets implemented, then she's going to have to keep the old accounting system and do this one and essentially export into this new system for reporting, because she's going to have 2 systems because that system just will not cut it. So it's, this is a person that I trust and respect. So like that was a pretty meaty comment.
Yeah, so when Sandra sends out the first legislative report, which should be early next week, we think, that bill will be covered in the report, and there'll be a thorough explanation of what's in that bill, also a link to the bill. And I probably could find right now to tell you what the number of it is. I'm not seeing it yet here on our tracker, but I will find that and get it to you. I believe that it does have a bill number, but I'll check and I'll let you know.
Thank you. Mark, did you still have a question?
I was going to say that I can't hear her, but the business manager for Wyndham Central, we're going on our 2nd year of using the program, and she was able to manage getting everything migrated over. So there may be methods out there that she has used that may be helpful to other business managers. So we can talk offline, and I can put you in touch with her.
Thanks for that. Any other questions, comments on strategic plan monitoring report? Kim.
Thanks. It was specific to the e-finance. We were in a pilot district as well. It sounds like you guys were, Mark, in Essex, Westford. And so I think a question I have is how we procured a program that doesn't comply with GASB. Not we being individual districts, but how did the state not anticipate the problem? Because I think it makes great sense that we should be operating from a common platform to be able to do good data analysis at the state level around policy implications. So I would hate to see it delayed indefinitely. It is a heavy lift, but it's important stuff. And I think our business manager feels that it'll be really important, but currently it doesn't allow for the reporting, the GASB-esque reporting that is required. And it sounds like there are ways to jerry rig around it. But that's a problem. And I think from a process standpoint, that's a question as the state is asking us to look to streamline our work. How do we hopefully prevent something like that from happening again?
I have a little update on the bill that doesn't have a bill number yet. I've just seen a sort of a preview of it, but I expect that we'll see, it hasn't been introduced yet, but I expect to see it maybe next week.
And I'm going to get any, I don't know if Kim's was more of a question or a commentary. You don't happen to know, Sue, like any of the history of how we ended up with something that wasn't compliant, as Kim points out?
No, I think that was before I started or right as I was starting. But I can certainly try to get that history.
It might be interesting, but I don't know that I would
don't know, it might be.
raise it above all of the other priorities at this point.
No, definitely not. It is a frustration, I think, because it's the kind of thing that calls into question credibility the next time we're asked for a big.
I mean, generally, I can tell you that it is what Kim mentioned, that the aim was to get everybody on the same system. I don't know why they chose this particular one.
Yeah. Dan, you got a point?
Yeah, I just want to say anecdotally, and it's sort of like what Mark was saying, that our town or the school district treasurer threatened to quit over it. And that was a year and a half ago because we're early adopters. She now, I think, is recognizing the value of it. So just have faith. We just got to work through this together, I think, is kind of the way we see it.
And that's the sentiment of our business, our COO as well, that it is well worth it. It just is an unfortunate challenge that seems as though could have been foreseen.
All right. Any other questions on the monitoring report? I'm going to scoot forward here a little bit just to try to give you all just a little bit of break before we start the 5 o'clock session. So if there's nothing there, then we're going to move on to consent agenda. And with that, I think I'll just look for a motion.
Mark, I'll move that we approve the December minutes.
And is
Jim
there
Salzgiver, I'll second.
second? Don, did you have a question or were you going to offer the second? You're muted, Don.
I was just trying to move the minutes. It seemed like there was maybe 10 seconds of silence there, and I thought, go, but it's already taken care of. That's great.
All right. Any questions, comments on the minutes? Sandra?
Just confirming that was Jim Salzgiver seconding.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? In favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes.
I think you're hungry, Neil.
I might be in it. We still got a long ways to go tonight, I think, before I get any food out of this. So new business. I'm just going to mention briefly, and I don't know, David, if you want to take 30 seconds. We do expect an item coming forward from the Member Engagement Committee for the next meeting. So I do have that slated for the agenda. But I don't know if you just want to take a couple seconds and just talk about it.
Sure, I was just, yes, so the Member Engagement Committee has two things that we would like to do. One is to present you an idea for purchasing a software that will help communication amongst school board members on issues, kind of posting things, and Sue could explain it better than me, but we will present that at the next meeting, and that should be reasonably quick. And then the second issue is we would love to consult with you all as to what are some of the ideas and ways and expectations for how we all as we are regional representatives bringing viewpoints from our regions to the VSBA. So how do we reach out to our region and what are the expectations? And so there are some ideas as to what it could be, but it would really help to see what you all think makes sense. So we'll have a brief presentation and then would love to have an exercise where we get feedback and some ideas and suggestions. Those are the two things.
Thanks, David. And then any other board members have any items of new business, either that you want to bring up now or ask that we bring forward to a future meeting? Floor.
We had talked briefly about it, but I would like a little time to talk about diversifying the educator workforce, the initiative that is going on in the state. So I would love to either do a small presentation after we have our retreat today and do it sometime at our next meeting if possible, or whenever you think it's good. But I really want to see how that ties into the work that we're doing.
Absolutely. No, I think it hopefully would dovetail nicely with the work that we're about to do on our retreat. So yes, we will make sure that we get that added. Anything else? All right. Anything else from your end, Sue, before we give folks a few minutes before the next meeting?
The only thing is I would like to remind people that there's a different Zoom link for the next meeting. It's at the top of your agenda. I also emailed you the links yesterday. But if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a quick email and I can send you the link again if you have trouble finding it.
All right. With that, then I will look for a motion to adjourn. And I'm looking. Oh, Adrian. Kim Gleason with the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Perfect. So we'll see all of you in a few minutes on the new Zoom link.